Payton, where are you at on your Marvel journey right now as a consumer of the Marvel franchise?
Of the comics or the movies?
I just want to say anything. I just kind of I
Okay.
feel like at this point now it's almost like I don't think either of us are like Disney kids.
Right.
I could be wrong.
No, hopefully not.
There's a bunch of folks out here in LA who are like, I'm a Disney adult. I go every
Voluntarily?
month and I know, dude. It's a big thing. I think the fact that you can drive to Disney World or Disneyland and get an annual pass. There's a bunch of folks I know who would like make a monthly pilgrimage at least for like a Sunday brunch. We just drive down to Anaheim for brunch.
Whoa.
We walk around Toontown and we come back up and that's our Sunday. And I'm like, how are you not
Destitute.
sick of it?
Yeah. Oh,
But
that
they're
too.
like all in on Disney. Oh, how are you not Disney? Dude, it's expensive. But they're like all in on the Disney culture. And I feel like Peyton, you and I, beyond, being connected over Goosebuds and our connection over at IU University and WTIU, shout out to WTIU, is a fandom love of Marvel and also the hate of what Marvel sometimes does.
I think that is probably pretty fair to say, especially these days.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, you just asked Marvel. I'm like, I sure did see that Captain America movie. Kind of forgot about it.
You saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Did you? I take it you did not?
I did not, but I realized I have been light spoilers, I guess, for Captain America. What was the title?
Brave New World.
Not
New World Order. I don't remember why they changed that, but it's not that anymore.
There was something about like that and Sabra and a bunch of like, are we secretly making this a evil Jewish regime movie or something? They were worried about. Yeah, Brave New World. I did not see it, but I realized I have been looking forward for 20 years since Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk to see the leader. When I'm blanking on that actor's name.
Tim Blake Nelson.
Brother, Where Art Thou? Yeah, Tim Blake Nelson, who I love. It has been since like 2005 or 2008 when he got knocked into a cage by Edward Norton and some radioactive blue goop fell into his head and he started smiling. I was like, I'm ready to see a big-headed man.
You're ready to see Jimmy Neutron.
I've been excited, and then I saw clips from Brave New World, and it doesn't look like his head's that big.
It is not the film is not as bad as you've been led to believe, but it is certainly not as good as you would like it to be. So the thing with the leader is disappointing because they do put him in as like one of those stock characters where the whole thing is, oh, he just thinks so far ahead of everybody. He's so smart that's his power. Mm-hmm. He's gonna pull all these strings from anywhere. And really just ends up doing what the plot needs him to do at the time, and doesn't end up really actually seeming that smart. What's worse to me is that the Serpent Society is in this movie. And
right, but barely.
They are a biker gang. They are... It is Giancarlo Esposito in a leather jacket leading a bunch of other people in leather jackets with... knives, I want to say.
What, like a West Side Story gang? Just
kinda.
like we're the serpents.
Although it's very much Riverdale Southside Serpents. Yeah. if that reference means anything to you.
Yeah, I mean, but my understanding of the Serpent Society, which was always like they're kind of Hydra, but not.
But they're
like
snake
another
people.
evil group.
And they have
but
big
literally
snake costumes.
Snake people.
Yeah, and they have like snake. Like there's is it like Death Adder who can like make himself real big, and then there's the I think apologies to the Serpent Society heads, but the one who like he's like a boa constrictor and he can like crush you.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
I'm sure there's a Black Mamba, but it's like I'm not a black character. Yeah, don't you dare call me Black Mamba. Oh my god, they're just a biker gang.
And apparently Diamondback was supposed to be in this movie, and she's not. They cut her out.
Wait, sorry, who's supposed to be in this?
Diamondback.
Oh yeah, who's like the only kind of known.
Yeah. She's and I think
right?
ends up being a superhero. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot wrong in that movie, but the worst I think is how just utterly sauceless it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also from the place. I'm curious how you feel about. I never liked Red Hulk.
No, I wasn't reading at the time when he was introduced, and they were kind of trying to put him over.
Oh my god, they're putting him over so hard. Dude, this is getting too meta, probably into it, but I believe Jeff Loeb created Red Hulk.
He did. Him and Ed McGuinness.
Yeah, and Loeb was like really going through some shit. I think he had just lost a child, so like
yeah.
I don't blame him for not being in a proper headspace. But
Right.
he was just writing Red Hulk as this like kind of an OC where like I know Hulk's like strong, but like this kind of cartoonish version, and he's the strongest. And you know what?
And he has a
can
gun.
pick up Milnor. Why? Because he's the strongest. And you're like, okay, this is just kind of dumb. Like, and like it was a lot of Red Hulk.
It's Hulk, but let's add on some extra stuff. Let's do Shadow the Hedgehog, give him a gun.
Yeah, like what if Roman Reigns was the Hulk to make it a wrestling dream? I don't know if that reference hits for you, Payton, or anyone listening.
Over the past year, my friends have really gotten me and my husband into wrestling, and it's so much fun.
Hell yeah! I just watched. I'm not watching much of WWE. I'm more in AEW or indie one, but I just watched that like where they're making John Cena a heel. And there's like some little kid in the crowd dressed out and like I don't know if you saw, there's like kind of a viral clip of some little kid. He's just like covered in like red John Cena merchandise, and John Cena's just like, "You guys are garbage if you like me," because like that kid back just like his face, his childhood ruined.
The signs they had the first week he was back. I think that same week somebody had a sign that said "Break a Wish" in the same logo.
That's very, very good. I don't know how to put it. I think the reason I was bringing up Red Hulk was I'm just still kind of wrapping my head around of like the early years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and it becoming this major, major thing of like, oh my God, they're doing Infinity War, or they're doing. I'm trying to think of another reference. Oh my God, they're doing Winter Soldier. Like, I remember Winter Soldier. That was an old classic storyline. And like now we're at Red Hulk, which like came out in like 2012.
I want to say earlier than that. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
I feel like more recent. Okay. Right? The fact that we are like getting into the leaks of what Avengers Doomsday looks to be like Hickman's Secret Wars.
Right, which I mean, like when Infinity
less than a decade
War,
old.
Yeah, when Infinity War came out, so much of that was just taken from the Infinity arc that he did with, I want to say, Jim Chung.
That's true, and there was some recent stuff too.
Yeah, and like, that was...
And you're not totally wrong, yeah.
At the time, that was maybe like 7 years old, I want to say.
Or there'd be like, I remember there was like stuff in the early Avengers movies where like, oh, this is so very clearly inspired by something from the Ultimates, which was recent, but it wasn't like, we are doing the Ultimates where Hulk eats people and Cap is racist. Like, we're not doing that, but we're inspired by a few moments.
Incestuous Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver?
Oh my God. Ultimates 3, where all the Avengers just outright say, we know Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver bone, and we're happy for them.
Yeah, I want to say a few months ago read through Mark Millar's Ultimates to get to the Hickman stuff because I was like, ooh, they're rebooting the Ultimate Universe. I want to find out more about the maker.
Yeah.
And it is, speaking of, God, not to tie it back, poor guy, Jeff Loeb, but like Ultimatum and that era, some of just
also, Jeff Loeb was working through something and putting it on the page, for sure.
Yeah. Heart goes out to him, but also Ultimatum is the worst comic I've ever read.
It's so bad. Ultimatum has like, hey, here are all these characters that you've loved for now over a decade, including maybe one of the best condensed stories of Spider-Man, right? I think Ultimate Spider-Man's by Bendis is really, really strong.
It's still my favorite book of all time.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I even kind of liked Ultimate X-Men, even when it was a little edgelord. Like, I still liked that stuff. And then Ultimatum is like, what if they all died in an apocalypse world event? And in the first issue, like Avengers Mansion is wiped out, and then someone walks in to see the Blob eating the wasp.
Eating the wasp.
Like
tastes like chicken. Yeah.
Tastes like chicken, it says. And it's just like... It's like not Elon Musk. It's like Eli Roth, like grimdark, edgy stuff, and it's so unpleasant. And it's crazy that that's like kind of a cultural touchstone for it's the buried skeletons of the MCU inspiration a little bit.
I mean, but do you remember what happens right after the Blob eats the wasp?
I'm assuming they blast his head off,
Hank Pym gets even bigger
Hank
and
Pym
then eats him.
Right? Yeah.
It's poetry. It rhymes.
Therefore, I'm eating my wife, like technically by the food chain.
Yeah,
it's an awful comic.
It's truly, truly heinous. All that being said, are you reading the new Ultimate Universe stuff?
I have not. I've heard pretty good stuff. I think I was just hurt so bad by
Ultimatum
and Ultimates 3. I was like, I can't go back there. And then after Secret Wars was like, we're gonna pull Miles and anyone who deserves to live just out of there and eject. Right. I had I was like, what is the Ultimates now? Sell me and the listeners on Ultimates as well.
So this new wave wave of it starts with a book called Ultimate Invasion by Hickman and Brian Hitch, I think, is the artist on that.
Who did the original Ultimates, right? Wasn't Brian Hitch? So yeah, because I liked his work on that first stuff.
And it's not quite what the book sells, because in the previews it was like, you know, the Maker and Miles Morales are going back to the universe where they came from and all that stuff. Oh. That's not really true. That's not what happens. It ends up being sort of like a lot of setup where the Maker is attempting to rule his own world that by his design, you know, going off of, I guess, like if you've seen Across the Spider-Verse, the canon events or whatever, he basically steps in to keep any superheroes from appearing. So, like, Captain America...
Evil Reed Richards, for those who don't know the Maker, by the way.
Captain America, like, never comes out of the ice. And, like, Spider-Man never gets bitten by the spider. And all this stuff.
He's just lurking behind Peter Parker before it happens. He goes, meow, and he just smashes it. Like, he steps on it.
And then, by the end of it, he's created this new world where, like, there's still a few superpowered beings, like... the Rasputins, so Magic and Colossus, and by extension Omega Red, basically run Russia. And like the world is
on board that.
Yeah, the world is divided into these new areas, and like there's what's basically Japan, run by, I want to say, like Sunfire and Viper,
sure,
and some other people. But it's basically the makers.
Silver Samurai is probably somewhere as like a Yakuza lord or something. Yeah.
And then by the end of it, it ends up being, you know, light spoilers, but I mean they go on into the next series. Reed Richards is Doctor Doom in this universe, and Tony Stark becomes Iron Lad, which he looks exactly like Iron Man, but don't worry about it. And
is he a little boy? Is he a little guy?
He's a
teenager.
Calls
himself Iron Lad?
Yeah,
okay. He's like a 40-year-old man. Called me Iron Lad. I don't want to.
They take it upon themselves to fix it and try and introduce heroes back into the world, and so that's how you get Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto's Ultimate Spider-Man, which, in keeping with the early 2000s stuff, is again the best of the line. But
now he's like an adult, right? It's like adult Spider-Man.
He's like in his late 30s, early 40s. He has a wife and 2 kids. It's fantastic. It's so wonderfully made. And like, they always give Hickman credit for making these big, like heavy events, but no one ever gives him credit for just writing like really fun, funny superhero books.
Yeah, I'd actually rather read some more of Hickman's. I think I actually lose Hickman sometimes when he gets too like esoteric, universal.
Totally, yeah.
Like, I can't follow this anymore, dude. I think you can, but I can't. Like, I'd rather have a smaller story. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's great. And then close behind that, the Ultimates. You have to be, because if they're, so the pitch for that is that where in the early 2000s, the Ultimates were like the United States government's enforcers. They were, you know, very much post 9/11. We need to enact freedom on the rest of the world, that kind of stuff. And, you know, maybe if we decide to give Mark Miller some credit, maybe tongue in cheek. But
Mark Miller is good at some ideas and then heavily editorialized, I believe, is how I
Yep.
it.
But the pitch for this one is that they are freedom fighters, revolutionaries, because the government is like run by the supervillains. So they are branded as terrorists, and like they are trying to start this network where they can upset the balance of power. And it's very much like, you know, the new Hawkeye is a Two-Spirit Native American non-binary person who you meet them when they're blowing up pipelines. And Captain America comes up and they're like, "Oh, are you here to stop me?" And he's like, "No, I'm here to join you." And there's another, there's a great one-shot that's telling the story of Luke Cage in this universe, and he's been wrongfully imprisoned and experimented on, and he's given the opportunity to escape, but instead he decides to like stay in the prison system of his own choice and help them start riots, and has the line, there's no such thing as a good pig. If you are worried that like Marvel is getting a little too like status quo-y, this is the book that feels like it's getting away with something.
Maybe because it's in the Ultimates universe,
right?
Marvel editorial's not too worried. I mean, meanwhile, yeah, the fact that you're mentioning the Spider-Man where he can like be an adult and have kids feels such, we can't get into it, Payton, but I am obsessed with how miserable the modern mainstream Spider-Man story is right now, where he is on a multi-year. I don't mean this in like the internet shorthand, like alt-right term of cuckolding. He is literally being cuckolded by an imaginary made-up character named Paul, who's just like taking Mary Jane. It's insane. It's insane that that's a multi-year storyline. Spider-Man can't be happy.
Yeah, I fell off Amazing Spider-Man a while ago, and for the most part, like, Zeb Wells is a writer I really like. I don't blame him for a lot of that stuff. I think a lot of that was editorial that came down, but man, it's rough.
That's a we could do a whole episode just about
Paul.
Is this listener? I can't imagine. I can't explain enough how it's like Spider-Man and Mary Jane broke up. You don't know why.
No, it's all off page.
It's all off, and time has passed, and then Mary Jane has now, within like a year or two, gotten with a new guy, had 2 kids.
2 adolescent kids.
Yeah, so you're like, timeline doesn't even really make sense, but you're just like, wow, she like immediately settled down after years of dating Peter, her true love. Gets to this guy named Paul, who's just like, I don't know, he looks like a fuckboy. I don't know, I think he's supposed to be, and it's just about like how Peter did something so awful that Mary Jane left him for Paul, and then it's just like, isn't Paul so cool?
I'm trying to remember what that was, because that was the pitch.
That was the big mystery for a while. What did Peter do?
Months. Yeah.
Whatever it was, I can't remember. It was not interesting or worth it, and I will. You know what? I will put Zeb Wells a little bit on notice for it. He still wrote some of that.
Yeah, that's true. He did do the script of it.
It's tough to read the mainstream stuff, so I like this off-universe sort of thing. That's cool. I definitely want to check out then the Ultimates.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. Anyway, 18 minutes late.
18 minutes late. Welcome to Goosebuds. I am your solo host. This is weird and new, Payton. Joined by my guest, Payton Whaley.
Hey, we'll get through it together.
Thank you. We are now what I like to call, I think I'm going to call it the third wave of Goosebuds. There was the first wave where Dami was one of the hosts. There was a second wave where Kevin was one of the hosts. And now this is the third wave. I like to think of it because third wave ska is one of my favorite types of ska. But a lot of people don't also like third wave ska. So I think this way I'm keeping myself kind of appropriately humble.
Art is supposed to be challenging, Chad.
Thank you, Payton. Payton, you've been on the show before. I believe we covered more traditional Goosebumps.
No, it was I don't even remember what the series title was, but it was like these state-by-state mysteries.
Oh, the Michigan Chillers, probably.
Yes,
or
yes,
Indiana.
yes.
I should have remembered that. But we covered a more traditional horror book. Payton, you are, I think, coordinating this new third wave as our first guest. It's funny enough, I've kind of offered all of our guests to come on the show, and as we're expanding the scope a little bit, and yes, RL will still always be here, and we'll revisit some of this stuff. But come on and let's talk about something that gives you goosebumps. I believe a phrase we can use that RL Stein doesn't have copyrighted.
That was the pitch to me, was what is something that you could talk about that as a kid or as an adult gave me goosebumps. And
you said, without any other options.
I gave you some other options, but I think what was pretty clear, the front runner was the early 2000s toy line Bionicle and the
Lego
subsequent motion picture. I'm not going to say major motion picture because
yeah, this was shot on film.
Yeah. 70 millimeter.
Bionicle, the Mask of Light.
Yes. Which, once we get into it, there is sort of like I guess we have to think about that now kind of deal. But I'll save that for a little bit.
Yeah. So, and we'll get into it. So, I think in terms, I also had Bionicle. I've noticed that Bionicles, at least on my side of TikTok, has kind of gotten a resurgence.
Oh yeah.
In let's do. I hope it's not AI, but let's do a fake version of the toy narrator that I think was very iconic.
I love those so much.
And it's always like, on the island of Mata Nui, these guys are coming to fuck your mom, or whatever, like whatever the TikTok joke version of it is. Which instead was let's run a new toy line. I mean, Payton, I'm gonna put you as more the Bionicle expert.
It's what I've trained for.
Yeah, please. What is your experience with it? And also, like, please kind of help sell the listener on, if they don't know what Lego Bionicle is, how would you describe it?
If they don't know what Bionicle is, my question is, what was it like having friends in high school? So Lego Bionicle was a line of toys that was released. I have the wiki up. I am going to get it right.
I was trying to do a lot. This lore is crazy. I was trying to read through it before the podcast. Yeah.
Launched in 2001. And it was kind of the way I understand it. There's some great documentaries on YouTube where people really get into it. But as far as I understand it, was sort of a Hail Mary throw from Lego that had been going under some financial stress in the 1990s. And this was like a last-ditch effort. They brought in some new blood to inject some new ideas in. And what are some new gimmicks we can do? What are, ways we can get around just the traditional bricks? And so what these were, I believe they called them there's a term for it, but basically a combination of action figures and construction sets.
Yeah, I think it's built off of Lego Technic, which I don't remember if they had action figures as much as it was
it's like a car.
Oh, you're a little bit older. Here's your it wasn't like Mindstorms level, which was another Lego thing of this is really sciencey, but this is a little bit more advanced, kid.
Yes. So Technic, really sort of defined by, had these really long, black, skinny plastic pieces that would kind of hold things in place. There were gears. There were, nothing looked like a brick. Nothing was very traditional Lego. And their pitch for it was, let's not only take these and make action figures that we can sell to kids and be like, oh, you got to collect them all. You got to have all the characters. Let's give them incomprehensible amounts of lore and backstory. And in a way that it truly depends on which Bionicle fan wiki you go to, because there are multiple.
Dude, yeah.
And look, right before we started recording, I was like, let me check in, because there was a time, when I grew up and I stopped, trying to buy these toys. I started buying video games and shit. But I was like, oh, let's check in. What have they been up to? And I'm on the page
what's Lego doing now?
Yeah. I'm on the page for Great Beings. They were mysterious members of the Glatorian species who had a shared love of creating. Some of their creations include the Matorian universe, the Element Lords, the Batera, the Red Star, and the Konohi Ignica. I don't know what most of that means.
Wait, this is all Bionicle lore still.
Yeah.
This is all still...
It's all... And this is all stuff that came out after... it went for years and years, built on itself, looped back on itself. I want to say a good solid chunk of the lore is prequel, technically. And the idea of it being that there are... Let me take a breath and set the stage for what this is.
Yeah.
So... As we begin, we'll start simple. In 2001, a great year, nothing bad happened.
Everything was going well in America. Nothing bad ever happened.
Everybody said, I can't wait for that new Jay-Z album. That day is going to be incredible. We'll always look back on it fondly. And I'm just playing with my Bionicles. And so it's the legend goes. It is an island called Mata Nui. And it is sort of got this spire coming out of it. And it's got this, it's all this topography. There's a big volcano in the center, very sort of Polynesian. Much has been said. And I am not the right person.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not the right person to claim anything about that. But much has been said about sort of cultural appropriation and using this. But there are 6 elemental warriors called the Toa.
Yeah.
Who are basically yeeted out of the sky in these metal tubes and come out, and they are the protectors of the land. And their big gimmick is that, and the gimmick for the toy line, of course, as well, is that they all have masks. And depending on the mask that they wear, which it being Lego, you could pop one off, pop one back on, they would give them different powers. One of them...
I think also they're tied, I think, right? I don't know if it was born or I guess it was the mask, tied to elements.
Yes. So there's 6 Toa and there are 6 elements. I want it to be clear for the listener at home. I have the wiki open. This is all off the dome, baby. So there are 6 Toa to start. There is Tahu, who's the Toa of fire. There is Gali, the Toa of water. She is the one female Toa.
I know. Well, also, they never say the word female, but definitely female coded. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's never quite clear if because for each of these colors and elements, there's also a small tribe of civilians. They can't all be superheroes. And it's unclear if only the blue ones are girls or if there are girls in the other tribes. It's vague.
This was the first note I read. In the movie we watched, which I guess is kind of both the introduction and also feels like it kind of wraps up the world of Bionicle.
Right. We'll get to it, but yeah.
Yeah, but it is the female voice characters are Blue Water Tribe, which is and I will jump to in terms of this idea of let's make this podcast a deep introspection of the idea of gender as viewed through the lens of Lego Bionicle. I was very confused by that. Wrote that down as a note. Went through the trivia for the movie. Apparently there was a cut scene at some point when the Razik, the lizard men, the Serpent Society.
Yeah, the Serpent Society of Bionicle.
Bionicle were attacking one of the villages, and I guess there was a cut scene where a little baby Bionicle tribes person was going to get stepped on.
Oh, I know why that's cut, because that changes everything.
Yeah, that changes everything. I'm trying to find the exact wording for it, but Lego told them no, because the Bionicles do not reproduce. Yeah. They are just born adults, but also don't ask where they come from.
Yes.
So are they robots? Are they biological? I didn't realize until this podcast that Bionicle is short for Biological Chronicle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also a previous project name for this, just to show where this kind of just to show where Denmark, the Lego creators, were maybe off the base a little bit on where they're pulling their inspirations from. Original project name, or earlier one, was called Boneheads of Voodoo Island.
Yeah, well, look.
And we're already talking about it. I kept going the whole time while I was watching this of like, Mata Nui, that sounds familiar. Isn't that Moana? Like, and it's, I believe it's, again, we're two white guys, right. So please apologies, Rob. I believe it's like one vowel different, where it's like Matu Nui as opposed to Mata Nui.
Yeah, but the way I understand it is that a lot of the creators would just take words that they found in like Maori or like, Pacific Islander regions and just change a letter, change a word here and there.
Yeah. It's strange and different, so it sounds exotic. Right. I did not know this early on in the product's line. Some Maori tribes, the Maori, I hope I say this correctly, Iwi, IWI tribes from New Zealand, actually threatened to sue Lego because of some of the word choices in this. The village was originally known as Tahunga, but changed to Matoran. Yes. And if you go down the list of like what are the names, they're usually just pulled from like, no, that's a name for Big Sky, or they didn't change that much.
Right.
So now that we know that Bionicle should be canceled, let's keep talking about this movie.
Now that Toa Gali's old tweets have resurfaced.
Yeah. Found out how he fed his little tribal person with beans out of a can, and everyone's like, you can't do that. Also, that's not a kid, that's an adult. Is a Bean Dad reference in 2025? Does that hit?
Oh God, I had blocked that out. Not in the way I had not blocked out any of this stuff. This is still fresh.
Yeah, let's go back how this was the basis of your entire personality.
Yeah. So obsessed with them. It's going to kill me if I don't finish the list of who they are. So there's 6 elements: Tahu, fire; Gali, water; Kopaka, ice; Lua, air. And then the 2 where it gets kind of confusing, there's Pohatu, who is stone, and then Onua, who is earth. It's kind of a Pokemon rock and ground differential.
Yeah, there's a steel, but also I was very confused by the air one.
Yes.
Because I was convinced, I was like, there's definitely the green one's jungle, and the green is air in this, and the green one, I'm so impressed you can remember the names. I could not pay them. They are... It's not that I'm a Westerner trying to remember, stolen Maori names. It's just there's so many they throw at you. It's impossible.
Oh, I'm trying. Like I have so many questions for you once we get into the movie proper. Of just like, what was this like for you?
Yeah. I would love Toa Lua, I think is the only one I remember of the is the green jungle air.
Who speaks
and it looks like it later.
Yeah, vaguely Irish accent, I want to say.
Yeah, I saw a quote where one of the directors described them as part Native American. It was the term they used, not a different person. So I think that was their, but yeah, it's like a Yoda-ish.
Yeah.
Where like, you must fast run.
Windfly, he says like 3 times.
Windfly, he says. So it's like kind of like just throwing adjectives and descriptive terms in there that actually makes the language harder to follow. He's the only one that talks like that.
Yep.
I think his character, or at least his toy, at some point they changed to, you're the jungle element. Which is
that would have been much later. Because as far as I know, for as much as Lua was a main character, he was always air. Because he was... Yeah, he started off when he's, the Gen 1 Bionicles, which, if you've only seen the movie, that is not what they looked like for the first, I want to say, year.
That's what was driving me crazy, because I also remembered, I thought Lua, the green one, I was like, I remember him having a big old, like, jaw.
He has an axe.
And axes. Yeah, and that's so much cooler. So they clearly like changed. They made the toys cooler later on.
Yeah, so there is deep lore and storyline which we are not going to get into. Also because I know that I'm going to get some of it wrong. I will say I'm going to look up the creator just so I can give him credit. But there is a 13-hour Bionicle lore dump video that I have been watching. I have not finished it. And by a guy named Ben Saint. It's called Every Bionicle's Lore Explained in Obsessive Detail. And he walks you through chronologically. It is 13 hours and 14 minutes long. And watching that, it sort of reminded me, because there's definitely, I believe they called them seasons, but like sort of generations of Bionicle.
Yeah. Also, it's all dictated by Toyline.
Yeah, it's Toyline.
Right?
It's let's relaunch it so we can sell you 6
now.
more.
So what's the story about the Bionicle spiders?
Yeah. So the way we get to the movie, at least, is that, the 6 wash up in their canisters, which coincidentally, the canisters in the lore are the same as the canisters that they would come in if you get them off the shelf at Toys R Us. Which, as a kid, put into my head that like, oh, toys need like a place to go. Which is why whenever I would get an action figure for the first like 12 years of my life, whenever I'd get an action figure, that plastic that they come in that like snuggles them up in there, I would save it because I'm like, that combined with Toy Story and then really just poorly thought out Small Soldiers, I was like, you need to show them respect because they're like living beings. Yeah. And in the case of Small Soldiers, will kill you if you don't. And so, but yeah, I do think Bionicle planted that seed. They've got the 6 canisters. They wash up. They fight basically corrupted animals. They've got these masks on them that are corrupted. And of course, them being toys, they've got these little gears. You can swing their arms that like wave a sword or wave their weapon and knock the mask off. And you're saving the animal. They got to a point where they're like, oh yeah, but we can't really like market those as much, which is where we get to the Borak, which are the first set of villains in the toy line that are, there's 6 corresponding ones to go with each of the 6 heroes.
I noticed that there was always like, there's kind of a collect them all thing to it too, right? Of like, you make sure if you have the green hero, you got to get the green monster. Totally. Even though it's just the same as the blue monster, maybe a different mask.
But the Borak were sick as hell because they not only, they were these little sort of stout guys. They could roll up into balls, which then if you kept,
they're like droidicas from Star Wars.
They're very much that. They could sort of like have their head like pounce, sort of like snap, lunging forward. And if you kept the packaging that they came in, you could peel off the back sticker and it would be clear. And it came with this little piece that hooked onto the bottom of the lid. And you could basically have them in their ball form hanging, sort of like very menacing, like insect hanging inside their packaging, which was very a nice.
Oh, touch. That's cool. It's like they're in their egg nest. Chamber or something.
Yeah,
I do remember the Borak. I think that was like around the time I didn't have that many Bionicles. I had 1 or 2. To be honest, Payton, I actually bumped hard on the lack of, even though there's a lot of like, changes their masks around. I think the entire Bionicle Technic line of like, these are just kind of how they are. You're buying an action figure unless the bricks to build something. It just didn't resonate to me as much.
Gotcha. I
thought they were cool. I just wanted more out of it.
I've always been very much a like follow the instructions guy, which is why I do like Gunpla now, because it's just meditative. Like you do what it tells you, and then by the end of it, you have a cool thing you can pose.
Oh, dude, maybe you can help me get into Gunpla because I love Gundam. I can't handle the stress over like if I fuck this up. If this piece falls off or I break it,
it's
or
gonna
I get
happen.
Too much glue,
it's gonna happen.
Where I paint it wrong, I've ruined it. Like it somehow messes with my mind a lot.
The thing about Gundam is that it teaches you to let go and let God, because those things are gonna happen.
Let go, let Gundam.
Yeah, let go and let Gundam. You just gotta let it happen. Like I got a kit of like Boba Fett from Star Wars. And had the smallest piece I've ever seen. I don't know how they made it. I don't know how they put it onto the runner to get you to like pick it up, because it was just a little yellow microscopic thing. And I was building it on a table over hardwood, and I dropped it and I was never able to find it again.
I'd be obsessive. I'd lose my mind. I'd tear my house apart.
You just let go and let Gundam. Where were we? Bionicle.
I can just I'm also like, I'm just curious, like how many Bionicles did you have, Payton?
Most of them. So There's definitely a clear point in which I fell off. I want to say I fell off. I'm trying to put a year to it. But once I want to say it was the Toa Inika, the All American Rejects generation. That was when I fell off.
What do you mean? What is that?
What do I mean? What I mean is that when they unveiled this new wave of toys, where it was like, again, another 6 Toa. They've got like LED lights in them. They've got these launchers. They shoot balls. The commercial was this like computer generated, like they're going up to this big gate and there are these evil monsters. They're going to go fight. And it's playing Move Along by the All American Rejects. And it is taken seriously as a heart attack. Seriously as, the year the Bionicle came out, 2001. And to the point where I'm going to see if I can pull it up, but there was a promotion. Bionicle Save the Band. I want to say.
Please tell me there was like All American Rejects like, help, we're stuck on Mata Nui. Only
Free
you can
the
save
band.
Us.
Yes. So this was. I love how the first thing on this wiki page, Free the Band was a non-canon, real-life advertising campaign that started in mid-2006. So I guess that's about where I fell off. Which, God, I would have been in middle school, so probably too old. Featuring the Paraka, who are the villains, and the newly released Toa Inika. The campaign featured an American alternative rock band, the All American Rejects, who had been kidnapped by the Paraka and the efforts of the Toa Inika to free them. So, oh God. I think, how did you...
You notice some kid, though, like, they're not aware of what's canon or not. They're like, All American Rejects. If I want to be better at Bionicle, I got to listen to All American Rejects and look for clues.
And you know what? It worked because the first album I ever bought with my own money was the All American Rejects Move Along.
Because of Bionicle?
I hadn't put that together until this moment, but it probably had a big thing to do with it.
I mean, that wasn't the worst album. I listened to a little bit of All American Rejects.
Yeah.
They seem fine. That's so funny. That tie over to it.
But I think that might have gotten me. They got me, gal.
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm sorry. While we're talking, I'm looking at like all the commercials for it, and like there is a lot of the toys are clearly coming first, and the lore second, which is probably
totally
fine for Lego. But like, I forgot like the toy designs, even that first wave, are just so much more interesting than what we get here in this Mask of Light movie.
Yeah. The designs are... At what point should we get into the movie proper?
Let's get into the movie a little bit, because the movie is... It's trying to establish, a canon to it, and I think as I kept reading it, it would show like, oh, well, this is actually changed in the sequel movie, or the next generation just said, like, nah, that's not what it is, it's this.
Yeah, so...
a little bit of backstory of who made this abomination. Directed by David Molina and Terry Shakespeare. That's right, a
Shakespearean.
Shakespeare. You could say this is a Shakespearean movie.
Yeah, and I believe... another Shakespeare is credited with... Right?
I saw that. The producer of another Shakespeare is like, I feel like there's probably a little nepotism going on here in the Lego Bionicle.
Well, and one of the writers is Henry Gilroy, who I know has done some stuff for like Star Wars Clone Wars.
Yeah, I see his name pop up in animation still. Also, a pretty big name on it. Only story by is Greg Weisman, who created Gargoyles and like Young Justice.
Yeah,
there's a quote that he had gotten fired off the project early for being quote rude to one of the Lego executives, which he doesn't know what they're talking about. I full disclosure, by the way, I've worked on a Lego property. I know we're talking about the Mask of Light. I worked on Unikitty, which was a spinoff of the Lego movie, which is a giant toy line, and Unikitty was making toys. We worked with Lego. There was like very little creative oversight from Lego. There was like times where they'd bring in meetings and they'd bring us. It was the coolest thing, Payton. Sorry, no, we're talking about another movie.
No, please tell me.
They'd bring us in like prototype toys they were making. Like just in Denmark, a builder made I actually have one on my shelf right now. A stolen. They never released it as one of the characters. Like the villain was named Mr. Frown. Master Frown, and then they had built like a roadster for him that was so cool, and I just took it, and that never came out. So I have this like original Lego on my shelf, but like they didn't say like, well, here's the lore. Unikitty was born in an orphanage, and she loves this, and this. They're just like, well, we're kind of working on like a set involving a carnival. Do you guys have anything going on with that? And we're like, yeah, we're actually working on a story for a carnival. Great, cool. Like there was no hard story lore for
Right.
this one, but it feels like Mask of Light
Nothing
and Bionicle
but.
was much different. Yeah,
Nothing but hard lore. Yeah, and then I also do want to shout out, this film was released by Miramax, which is to say,
I know.
without Harvey
made money
Weinstein,
from
the
this.
Bionicle film would not exist.
I was waiting with dread for his name to pop up. I'm sure at some point he signed a check that was part of this, but yeah, this is Miramax. It's kind of wild to see that pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned, it's like both a sort of gateway for people, but also after watching it again, I felt so bad because there was no way I'd give this to somebody who had never heard of Bionicle, because it explains nothing. And it's also sort of basically a season finale for the toy lore for this first round of characters.
Yeah, this summarizes the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
'Cause it's like there's 6 elements, but someday a 7th one will come out. And this is it. We got it. And here's the 7th element.
Right, and it's all about, so there's 2 like great spirits. There's Mata Nui, who the island is named after, and then his brother Makuta, who's like the shadow guy. And this is them like confronting Makuta and freeing Mata Nui, and you're like, oh, I guess we're done. I guess.
I don't even need to play with my toys anymore. All the bad guys have been stopped.
Yeah, there are 3 more movies, but I know 2 of them are prequels, and the 4th one I've never seen, which I was watching the trailer. It looked real bad, so I'll have to watch it.
I mean, that's saying something,
Yeah.
considering this. I don't want to be too mean to the animation. I know this is like early 2000s, and CG animation was tough to produce. This is like a pretty ugly movie to watch. It's mostly browns and reds.
And you mentioned the designs. For some godforsaken unknown reason, I don't know if you noticed this, the toys, they're just robots. They're just like, these are toys. They're made of plastic. They're made, if you want to get into the lore, they're mechanical beings. In the movie, they give them like sinew and like tendons and sort of muscle that you can see just under the surface. That's really upsetting if you think about it too much. Like,
no, I cannot. I both don't need to know, but also it's like, what are they? Like, what?
Yeah.
Where is this like an isolated island on the world? And this is all we know. At one point, I think one of the random characters yells like, "He's a big machine" during like the sporting event. Like, do they know they're robots?
And it's also the thing of like, you think about the toys, and their whole thing was they could take one mask off, put another on, and there's a bit of that here where like one of the characters, his mask is kind of like fixed funny, and that's one of the haha jokes. I worry that if they took their masks off, they would start to bleed out.
It seems attached to their skin.
It seems attached to their skin, and like, if in the toys, it's in the lore where like 3 of them can combine to make a really big one. I worry that if they did that, you would hear like bones cracking and like skin ripping, and
you just see it melt off, like just like just scream as it pulls.
Genuinely upsetting. Yeah, so I say let's move in order because that's how my notes. are.
We got a big old which you've kind of summarized. We got a big old lore dump at the beginning.
Yes.
Like, here's the legend of Mata Nui.
Big lore dump that simultaneously tells you too much and nothing at all.
Yeah.
Of this is the island, these are the spirits, these are the Toa, they're gonna help, but it doesn't explain like, well, what are their powers? What do the elements have to do with it? Do they like each other?
How are they chosen?
Are they related? Are they dating? Is it both?
They call each other brother a lot, and
but there's
sister,
some weird,
I think,
like, it feels like Tahu and Gally are like stilted or jilted lovers, like exes.
Fire and water. Yeah. Fire. Shout out to Fire, by the way. Just gonna shout out to, there's these are like a lot of workhorse voice actors. You'll recognize Scott McNeil as the voice of the Fire one. I know him most as Silverbolt from Transformers Beast Wars.
I know him most as Wolverine from X-Men Evolution.
Was he? Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, it wasn't Scott Blum for once, or Bloom.
Yeah.
He's a great Wolverine. He's kind of halfway towards Wolverine here. Of like,
very much.
I don't work with anyone. I'm solo, but also I don't know what he believes in. Right? He's just kind of a fire guy.
And apparently that's a big part of the lore in that 13-hour video, is that like how much of the lore is just they can't stand each other, and you're like, this is fun. This is great.
The whole time, while I'm working on an Avatar series, I just couldn't stop shaking a and they're from different elemental tribes.
Yes.
And there's a balance of light and dark. I'm like, oh my God, is this what I'm working on? Is this what I'm writing? No, I think I'm doing something better than this. I think I'm doing something better. It's okay.
So
I'm also a sucker for that trope. Right?
I did want to
Avatar,
ask you.
Yeah.
So the question that kept popping up in my mind, I'm like, oh great, I get to talk with Chad, who's like sits with this stuff, and like you are working on Avatar now. You've worked on Star Trek before. Stuff where there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of like complicated stuff if you want to get into it. Where do you find the balance of wanting to play around with that and wanting to explore that versus not wanting to absolutely abandon your audience? Because I feel like this movie leaned into the latter, where they're like, if you don't know, you better pop eject on that DVD because you know you're not in a theater.
Yeah. That's a great. The movie for sure felt. I think I remember when it premiered on like Cartoon Network. I think I watched this.
Oh yeah.
This one felt for sure like you are already in on Bionicle.
Yeah.
This is giving you like a storyline for your toys, or you already know this a little bit, and you're so stoked for the 7th toy. Yeah, it's an interesting balance. It's a really insightful question, Payton. That's a better question than anything I've asked you this entire podcast. I don't know. Personally, I try to find a balance where like you got to honor the world that's already there. If not, you're not to bring it back to Spider-Man, or else you're doing like one more brand new day or one more day thing where you're just like, none of that mattered. You wasted your time. That doesn't happen anymore. Like you got to honor where that was before, but then also not go so far into like fan service of my hot take is I'm not a big fan of Star Wars Rogue One because I feel like too much of it is, I know it's everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, but just too much of it sometimes feels like it's the guys from Mos Eisley Cantina. They're here. And I'm like, no, you're making the world feel small. And you mentioned Star Trek. Like we were kind of lucky in that Prodigy at least took place in one of the least populated quadrants. Like the galaxy literally divided into different sections. So like, the stuff that's the mainstays of Star Trek aren't there. There's virtually no way for us to run into like the planet Vulcan.
Right.
So we can't do hard, like, well, how does this trap, like, how many moons do they have? And as opposed to, let's just honor what is the basis of this series and try to stand by the principles of, like, the Federation or with Avatar. And I can't get into what we're doing in the story, but, like, definitely let's honor what is already established. And then also, like, what are the new characters and new stories in this world that honor also, like, we spent, Korra in Legend of Korra, there was a massive thing about like a major story about bringing back the air nomads after Atla. Like we should be aware of that and not forget that, or it's basically saying that like everything Aang and Tenzin did in Avatar didn't matter. Like little thing, like trying to find that balance. So I don't know if Bionicle nailed that in this one. I think you're right. It went too far into like super fandom.
Right. Yeah. Cause I wrote down that like, there are moments they are just throwing out proper nouns like it's nothing.
Oh my God, I could not keep up, dude.
This movie is ingrained into my like hippocampus. That's how otherwise I don't know if you'd be able to really tell what's going on. The premise is that they are, there's this prophecy that there's going to be this 7th Toa of the 6 elements. The 7th one is going to be one of light. And there is a herald, I think is what they call him, that they need.
It also felt like some of this came up as it happened.
Yeah,
right? If I may say, our inciting incidents, right? A little bit of what I guess is starting the hero's journey in a way is in the fire village. And I'm sorry for shorthanding, just going the fire one or the water one. These names are beyond just taking from Polynesian culture or Maori culture, just nonsense. Jailer?
In IMDb, it's spelled Jallerer, but everybody calls him Jala, which
Jala
confused me a lot.
Jala and Takua, which you'll hear a lot because the opening is just Jala going Takua. It's like 3 minutes straight of it. So at least you'll know his name.
Ingrained in my brain.
They're just little fire guys, and they're wandering around and they're like surfing on the lava. And I guess it just had to happen. They just run into like they kind of quickly say, "Oh, over there, that rock, that's a guard totem. Don't mess with that." And then ignoring warning, seeking the call to adventure, Jala jumps across the lava and shakes the rock. And when you know it, the Mask of Light's in there. It was just right there the whole time.
I think that was Takua that did that. The blue one.
Oh,
Not to actually on.
No, I know. Well, on top of that, I think this after they find this mask of light, they just really stumble across it.
Yeah, it falls into the lava, the rock melts away, and there's a mask in there.
There's a mask in there. Okay, I guess we should have done this. It kind of kicks off the most interesting or only really character story part of this is that one of them discovered the mask, and then the other one is kind of given the credit for the mask because
the other one doesn't
want it. Yeah, Jala doesn't want to be a hero.
You've got it flipped again.
Oh my God, Takua.
Takua is the chronicler.
Which one's the chronicler?
Yes.
Jesus
so
Christ.
He's like
I'm
a historian
so
for the people, and Jala is there, and so
he's got the cooler mask, I guess.
Right.
The two of them.
And so Takua's whole thing is like he finds the mask, and whenever he touches it, it lights up because clearly he's the one who's meant to have it. But while they're like messing with each other at this like sports ball game, he reflects it at Jala to like mess with him, and the other people see it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like Jala, you're the chosen one. You're the And Jala's like, "Well, when are you going to tell them?" And he's like, "I don't want to tell them. Like you're the one who's like all up for adventure. I'm just like the little librarian nerd." And yeah, and then they get sent on this journey to seek out the seventh Toa, which it's kind of a very roundabout journey. Which is to say,
it doesn't
shows you all the toys you can buy.
They didn't need to leave the village at all. We'll learn.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just jump past. I guess it wasn't important at all. We see the different villages have gone together for the Bionicle Super Bowl.
Yes.
Of a sport called
Coley.
Coley.
Yes.
Which I guess is like hockey meets like high-a-lie or lacrosse. You just fling pinballs at each other. And at the end of this match, our little heroes just take a bow, and then when you know it, the mask fell out of his backpack. Womp womp.
Yeah.
It's so funny that this is like the biggest deal, understandably, right? And meanwhile, I think who I was probably wanting to spend time with are the Toa, who are the badass elemental warriors. They're just like watching this game and just talking about politics and like if they should hang out. And it's like they're kind of not in.
One of them does a cool flip, which I can't tell you how many afternoons in the summer spent on the trampoline trying to recreate that. Almost broke my neck.
Dude, half of this movie is cool flips.
Yeah.
Like
they start off surfing on lava, which in 2003 was the coolest thing somebody could do.
That was pretty. I think it's cool that your sword, you could put like I don't think it was even their sword for them. Like, the fire Toa saves them from the lava. These little guys, and he could put his sword into a surfboard and fly.
Toys could do that.
That's really cool.
Yep.
There's something so like the action in this whole thing. Besides the sporting event, it's so, I don't know. It feels like they were scared about violence, even though they're all robots.
Yeah,
like,
you should also know.
Ever swings a sword at each other.
Well, you should also know that according to like Lego policy, when they were doing the lore for the Bionicles, they couldn't call them weapons; they were their tools. So like, even though one of them was an axe and one of them was a sword and one of them was like claws, they were always tools. They were never allowed to be weapons. And so, yeah, you're very right. And anytime there's conflict, especially with to jump ahead a little bit, the henchman of the movie, the Rakshi, no one ever, like, Tahu never throws his sword at them. He'll, like, strike the ground and turn it into lava, or things like that.
Yeah, even though sometimes in the fight scenes, it looks like nothing happened, right? There's, like, at one point, the fire Toa, slams the ground and sends lava at the Rakshi, and then they just kind of stand over it, and then the water Toa's like, good job! And, like, I don't think you got him. I don't think that did anything. But they all have axes and swords, or that all could also be used vehicles. The Ice Toa, who's so clearly the cool guy, no pun intended, has like his swords turn into skis. But yeah, they're never. That's so interesting because I can't imagine if Lego. I mean, like they did pirate sets and sci-fi sets, and there's like laser guns, there's swords. Did they internally go like, well, those aren't swords. That's a meat scraping tool.
Yeah. I think they still called it a sword, but but a sword is not a weapon apparently. Which is very much guns don't kill people.
I do. It's just so PG or G for this toy line, despite it being kind of like the more Yeah, right. This feel like this is the more serious Lego when you were a kid.
Oh yeah,
This
it's
is
yeah. Looking for the cool kids. For the not the Happy Meal, but the Mighty Kids meal.
Oh my God, that was a memory unlocked in my brain. You're a big kid now. You don't want a Happy Meal. You want a Mighty Kids meal. It's the same thing when you want.
You don't want that cuck nonsense.
I wish McDonald's would just antagonize the kids more. Just like, yeah, you don't want to be a cuck, do you? And then the Grimace is like, I'm going to take your food.
Do you want the boy toy, the girl toy, the little bitch toy?
It's that Nathan For You episode where he develops toys for kids. And he's like, this is the only toy that proves you're not a baby. Do you want it? And then just like test marketing with kids. Like, do you want this toy? And they're like, no. I was like, well, I guess you're a baby. And then they all reach for the toy. It just works. Yeah, back to this story. So they do their sporting event. It's only important that thematically that action comes back later in the final fight. But you said before, they found the legendary mask.
Right.
This seems like a pretty big deal.
And they are keeping it in a backpack.
They're keeping it in the backpack, and they are sending no escorts. Yeah. There's no fellowship that'll go with Frodo and Bilbo to the mountain.
That was crazy. So I know we're skipping around a lot. I cannot emphasize enough how paper thin the story is. It is, they go from village to village. You meet New Toa. There's an action scene pepper in every 3 scenes or so. And then,
that's pretty much the story.
And then they loop back around.
Makuta in the shadows is like, I have a feeling they found my mask. I must keep my brother asleep. It's kind of interesting. Like it's always like he's almost like I guess that's kind of a reveal. He's like trying to protect his brother.
Makuta, who if you up until that point had only been like definitely only been playing with the toys, or even if you'd been reading the books, which I had, he which I know you mentioned it's Biological Chronicles. The books were called Bionicle Chronicles, so it was Biological Chronicles.
It's like ATM machine.
Yeah. But if you'd been following those, and I could have been wrong. I could have been a dumb idiot 6-year-old. Makuta was supposed to just be like this big impending spirit, this like big bat. Like you're like, oh, he's like Galactus. Like he is like you can't even comprehend of it. He's just a guy in a basement. He's just hanging out.
He's down in a smelly basement. He's got like scientist tubes filled with. I was curious what you thought those were, Payton, because we see him like reach into his own butt and pull out these like yerk squid things.
Yes.
Put them in the tube where there's like just like a general kind of default Mata Nui, Makoden person.
So those were the squid things. Those in the toys went inside the Rakshi. They're basically like the Rakshi are just like a robot shell, and it's really this thing that's powering it.
Okay. And everyone they'd open the mask and they would come out there and go like, I'm still in here. Don't worry about me. Yeah.
Very like Men in Black 1.
It would pop out and say the galaxy's on Orion's belt and then pop back in. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what those were. But yeah, it's very confusing as to like what his deal is. He's just a guy. He's just hanging out. And he knows about the mask because he just knows, and he sends the Rakshi. He sends 3 at a time. He sends them in batches. He sends 3 Rakshi to go.
It probably takes a lot out of him to like
pull it out of his butt.
Those squids out of his butt. And you're like, all right, I need a little more time to process and generate some more. Here, you color-coded Rakshi who don't actually have elemental powers.
Yeah, that was weird.
All color-coded like the elements. Yeah.
I think canonically they have different powers, but they're not really explained in the movie.
They have powers in whatever they need to for this action scene. Do they have a power to poison you slowly?
Yeah, to make you mean.
That does that.
To scratch you so your mask starts turning green and you get,
they turn the fire Toa grumpy and he's like, I don't like any of you, and then they just give him a bath and he's better.
It's again not to harp on this direct to DVD Harvey Weinstein production, but yeah, there's again jumping around more. There's really not much to talk about in terms of
I do want to. A few things of interest, I think, is that while Jala and Takua are on this mission, and one is denied that they are the actual herald, they'll just be the chronicler, right? It's that's kind of the only emotional character thing these writers have to deal with is rejecting the call over and over again.
Right.
They also have a little pet crab.
Oh yeah.
Did you think that was the crab a toy? I was very curious.
Yes, you're damn straight. Yes. I don't.
Okay, I like the crab. I like the crab way more than any other character in this movie.
I do believe. Ignore my clacking.
Logging on, researching.
Yeah, toy sets. Because I did have the Seventh Toa and the Makuta set.
Oh,
I don't know. I believe there was a crab. Could be wrong.
I just found that visually, aesthetically more interesting than most of the characters in this. And I was like, yeah, they ride on this little crab's back. And they also don't know what to do not only do they just go to the villages, right? The Rakshi attack. A Toa shows up and is like, get out of here. I'll go tell others about what you're doing. Yep. It's just rinse and repeat. The crab, they don't know what to do with it. Where at one point after they reach the air Toa and are saved by him after they were facing a jungle bear, which was very funny to have that as an antagonist. They send the crab back home. They do Bill, they send Bill the pony. Frodo and Sam are like, get out of here, Bill. You can't go into the mines. Oh, it's so sad.
We don't want you no more.
Yeah, we're gonna get on this flying bug thing. They ride the flying bug thing after the next Toa encounter, and the crab just comes back. The crab's like, oh my god, he followed us. It was like they just didn't know what to do. They needed him to fly, so they're like, the crab, just get out of here for now. Come back later.
Go on, get.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, it's so weird that the Toa, which I think are the characters you as a kid want to really follow.
Yeah, they're sort of side characters, and what they're giving.
They're having like Star Wars prequel politic conversation.
Oh yeah, they don't do anything. They come in for action scenes, which sometimes are kind of cool, but for the most part, it's just like, oh, you're in danger, you got to get out of here, and then I'll go warn you. Rinse, repeat. But yeah, they don't really do a whole lot. Other than the one gets scratched and he gets grumpy. He
fights for half a battle, but that's they just kind of gang team up on him and freeze him, and then they give him a bath and he's fine.
And I'm thinking about what you said about, there's no fellowship. Because when the mask first gets revealed, the elders, I forget, I know the lead guy's name is Vakama, but I don't remember.
I am impressed, Payton, with any of these names you're remembering.
Apparently, this has all been said before in a prophecy, and they know what's going to happen, and they know what's supposed to happen, all the elders know this for sure. None of the Toa know it. None of the Toa are privy to this information of like, wait, what's going to happen? Who's going to do this?
Yeah.
And then, and they know, even by like the second Rakshi attack, they know that like they're in danger. Why don't they keep them together as bodyguards or something like that? Like,
yeah, why are you not going through the different elemental biomes and then you meet Lua, the air Toa, and then be like, I'm on your journey now.
Yeah.
And then be like, great, awesome. Hey, can you stop doing that weird Yoda talk? Otherwise, you're great. Come on board.
Right.
Like they hang out at the sporting event. And then they go their separate ways, and they're almost more like ambassadors.
Yeah, if there's like drama, like explore that then. Like have it be like, I'd join you, but I really can't stand, the blue lady or the red guy. Like, but it's perplexing.
Because even though the story they're trying to do beyond just the rejection of the little guys, are you really the herald or not? Is the water Toa definitely? We're stronger together. We're stronger in unity. Got it. Great. So, stay together. So, actually do that.
Yeah, because they harp on, the three pillars. Unity, duty, and destiny.
Oh, my God. The amount of times they say duty in this.
And yet, it never seems to matter. It never seems like...
No.
They're like, yeah, we say that. But, very back row Baptists in the Bionicle.
And half the time, not to be a child, half the times they say duty, it sounds like poopy. It sounds like it sounds like the other type of duty, and it's so funny. Yeah, I think to the worst part of it all is we get a quick little excursion. They go down into the mines of Moria. They go down to the earth and stone. Well, not even really. Sorry, I'm jumping across the maybe this is the act 2 of the story. The end of act 2 is that. When they go through the caves, the little guys get separated, and
he's like, "You go on ahead. I'll just go home."
Yeah, because he saw a vision of the bad guy who was like, "Your friend will get hurt, so stop what you're doing. Don't bring the mask." And he's just like, "I guess that means I should leave, but you should keep going."
Yeah, which really selfish.
Fine
on both counts.
Yeah, really. If anything, you should be more protective of him.
Yeah, just be like, "I'm going to put you in danger, so why don't you do this alone?"
Yeah, so he takes the crab. He rides the crab. He's like, you go off on foot. I'm taking my crab back.
He's like, you're good. You can call an Uber, right? You can just...
Yeah. I'm taking about. Yeah, at some point you'll find another Toa. They'll give you a lift. He takes the crab, ends up, I guess, just like detouring through the Stone and Earth tribe, where Earth and Stone are just similar. I think they're also the same voice actors. Like, I think Scott McNeil is doing Toa of Fire and Toa of Earth, but he's like, I'm the Toa of Fire, I'm the Toa of Earth. Like, it's just that level of their difference on it. I don't blame the voice actors. They got to try. The Rikishi attack again. The Rikishi, I think is a wrestler.
I'm letting it happen. I think it's fun.
Yeah, the Rikishi attack again. This is where the Fire Toa gets turned into a temporary bad guy.
Not bad, just really grumpy. He never does anything that puts anybody else in danger. He's just kind of an asshole.
Sometimes the Rakshi have a power to stun you, I guess. They have like a stun beam. Sometimes they can just do a command summon where a lightning bolt will strike you from far away. It is undetermined.
Yeah, what's confusing about that, Chad?
I want to see them fucking swinging their weapons at each other. I want to see, like, there's a little bit of fire attacks. The most interesting part of all of this is kind of heading towards once our little guys are reunited, and there's a little bit of half hology. I thought you were leaving. Oh, who remembers that? Let's keep going. They finally have a 6 Toa face-off with the Rakshi, where they put their hands together and they summon a big old...
They T-pose to assert dominance.
They really do.
They do.
T-pose, lock in.
Yeah, I'm being so serious when I say they stick their arms out and they T-pose and they like fist bump each other together. And
there's so many fist bumps. Yeah. That's the only thing they could have do in this.
Part of me was like, maybe there's a lore reason, but I love the thing of like, you just saved my life, dap me up, bro. Like... This is also the scene I credit with teaching me as a young child how glass is made.
Yeah. The element. Listen, not to make this about Avatar, my favorite thing has been coming up with ways that different benders would either work or their elements would crash into each other.
Oh yeah.
And we hadn't done glass bending. It was on the whiteboard. Do we do glass bending at some point? I love that the air Toa is like sand tornado and fire. Makes a big old glass prism. Yep. That's pretty cool.
And then, the other combo attack they do where it's like the fire one makes lava and then the earth one like raises it above and then like lets it...
They are just adding
lets it fall onto the guy. And then the water one like cools it off so it turns into rock again. And then the ice guy just pops over and freezes over that. And I'm like, okay, that was a little unnecessary.
No, yeah, he was like, I'm here too. Ice guy, by the way... I think I thought he was the coolest one as a kid because he has the coolest thing every character can ever have, which is a one cybernetic eye that can zoom in or out and see things in predator vision. Therefore,
it's the mask of X-ray vision.
Yep. Is that literally what it says? The mask gives... Oh my god.
Yeah, which I'm trying to think what the other ones were. I know the red one is shielding, the white one is X-ray vision. And by the way, the powers...
I don't know if the red guy ever did any shielding.
He did at the very beginning when the lava comes over them. He puts a shield over them.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It should be noted, too, that the powers are associated with the shapes of the mask, not the colors. The colors then correspond to which character can wear them. But the blue one was... water breathing, which feels like kind of a cop-out.
Sure.
The green one, I think, is levitation, which basically, and then he uses air to combine it with that.
Air,
fly.
Okay.
I want to say the black one was like night vision or something. That could be a later thing.
I guess if you're down in the cave, it kind of feels like it steps on Ice Guy's.
And then the biggest missed opportunity is... I believe the brown ones was super speed.
Oh,
where I was
which we never see.
Yeah, I was watching that action scene and I was like, he should, because he was my favorite as a kid, and I'm like, why is he not like just whipping back and forth? And I think too, in the lore when he upgrades to his like second form, which is what the movies use, I think he also has the ability to like the Flash like phase his atoms so he can like pass through things.
Ooh.
Yeah, none of that's in here. Hope you like that. Hope that sounded cool because none of it's in this movie.
No, I that's what I want to know. And again, like, let me see the Toa or what I'm buying. I don't know if you ever got these little guys, these little villagers in the sets.
I think some of them were in McDonald's toys and like canon.
Sure, that's the Mighty Kids meal toy is these little guys. Like, I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
And even if it's about listeners, you might see where this is going. Wouldn't you know it, near the end of this big, and it's the epic scale of Avengers Endgame, all 6 of these Toa fighting these 6 Rakshi. poor little Jala just takes a hit.
Yep.
Dies immediately.
Just dies.
And just immediately falls asleep and dies. And that is all, I guess, Takua needs to know of, like, I should put the mask on.
Yeah. Well, because my scapegoat can't do it. He's a corpse.
Yeah, now I finally realize I need to be the hero. And he immediately transforms into the Toa of Light.
It's golden, like white and gold.
White and gold. There's a little bit of like, sure, I guess you can say that the journey was a metaphorical thing. And
no,
what was the mask even doing then? Because the mask was glowing.
Yeah,
and they were following it. They were following the beam of the light.
So where was it taking them to this temple that they kind of started nearby?
Maybe was it leading them to a mirror, and eventually he was just going to see it and be like, oh.
And basically the mask takes them on a movie. It's like without it sort of like wayfinding, without it hitting like R3 on the controller to tell you where to go next. There's no movie. But yeah, I will also say too, I was a little disappointed as far as magical girl transformations go.
You were a little disappointed.
The seventh Toa turning from like little guy into big guy was just kind of nothing.
No. Oh yeah. Oh my god. If it had done a full-on Sailor Moon transformation, or Payton, I don't know if this reference hit to you all. I just last night was showing my wife Heidi. She never heard of the movie The Guyver.
I've never heard of it.
You ever seen The Guyver?
No.
It's maybe that's a later Goosebuds episode. It is a weird 90s. I think Saban was part of it. It's like based off of a manga, but it is like a kid finds a power suit, an alien power suit, and all these aliens with really cool monster effects are coming to kill him. The Guyver transformation is crazy because it's also part organic. Yeah, I'll just send it to you. But it's like very much a 20 different parts flying around a guy with like meat tendons before he turns. It's like I'm all for a magical girl transformation or a magical guy transformation.
This just wasn't that.
This was your arms you got taller.
He does then immediately, and I do want to shout this out specifically, rip apart the rock sheet and turn them into a motorcycle. And
is that what happened?
I'm pretty sure, because it just shows them building it, but I'm looking at a picture of the toy, and a lot of the parts are similar to what were on the rock sheet. So I think
that would make a lot of sense because, I never done this. No, I forgot to bring it up. I know this is, if I'm being mean to this movie, let me know. But the rock sheet, we see them constantly have a fly mode.
Yeah, they can just like hover.
It really seems to be that they just sit back on their butts like they're sitting on the floor of their gym, and then they just kind of scoot and fly forward like drones.
You've got it.
They didn't transform into a different vehicle form. They kind of just float. So sure.
So yeah, he turns them into a hover bike, which of course to sell more toys, and that's what the set came with. It was the Toa and his hover bike.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that felt very much like a toy. Was it weird to you?
Oh, are we going to say the same thing?
Probably. So the Toa are all like, we should come with you. And he's like, no, friends. Just wait for me. I must do this. Oh, but hey, hey, it's me, the little water girl that you kind of had a couple lines in the beginning of this. I'm here too. The little water girl. She played the sport game. Here's your dead friend's head.
Yes.
We're going to put it on the front of your motorcycle.
They turn his face into a hood ornament, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then...
And even though they use the term mask, as far as we know, that's his head.
As far as we've seen it, like that's his face. And they put it on the front of the bike like a hood ornament. And then he flies.
Collect all the bugs.
There's a little scene of him flying down this cave, which is not very exciting. It only lasts maybe about 15 seconds. And then he gets to a big door and he does like a sick backflip off of it and crashes the bike into the door, friend face first. So like, Jala, thanks for everything. Could you please be a battering ram for me?
I'm the herald of my story now.
Psychotic.
So long, Jala.
Yeah, and then he crashes the bike into it, and then oops, surprisingly, little water girl had climbed inside the trunk, and she's there too. So he could have killed her too.
Oh yeah, that's true. And she's there only for him to go, hey, little water girl, go tell the others.
Yeah, and she has to leave.
So she has to leave and then go back up and then climb up to tell the Toa, come help.
It's
like,
insane.
I know sometimes you need to hide the ball like that in animation, or you're like, well, we can't animate 12 characters the entire time.
Right, they can't all have hover
tricks
bikes.
To do that.
Yeah.
They can't all have hover bikes. We didn't make that many models. But like, this was a very slapdash way just to have the Toa of Light start to face the bad guy before all the Toa show up to face him.
Yeah. I don't... I'm trying to make sense of, like, why would they have gone about it this way? And I'm struggling.
I do wonder how much of this is story notes, how much is production. I mean, the motorcycle for sure feels we have this toy, we'd like to put it in. Sure, could he fly down there? But even then, you don't have to animate things that just fly, right? Like, you do, but like you don't have to like do limbs. That's actually easier to animate manually in CG. Yeah, the Toe of Light faces off with
Makuta.
Belair, which by the way, I think this is confusing that the good god of this planet is called Mata Nui. The island is called Mata Nui. I take this as they are living in Mata Nui. Like Mata Nui is like essentially the turtle that the world is built on top of. Is how I'm trying to take this.
Right.
The term is just being thrown around a lot.
Right. And as far as I'm aware, it's never explained because the way this movie ends, and then I fell off before they had any kind of resolution.
Toe of Light takes. They had kept one of the worm yerk slug things alive. Lead me to your master. It slinks along, where they eventually face off with Makuta.
Yes,
they do.
He as the Toa says, "What is the Makuta shall return to him." And I wrote, "Okay, Jesus." Like,
you denied your friend 3 times,
right?
And the Rakshi crowed.
And in that same vein, I did have the thought of like, this could have been much more interesting if like Takua knew what was going to happen at the end, but like just didn't want to deal with it. You know, like Jesus. Like of like that's part of the tension is like he knows how bad it's going to get, so like he doesn't.
Please,
like,
Mata Nui, take this burden.
Right,
from me.
right. Forgive them, Mata Nui. They don't know what they do.
Takua, the Toe of Light, faces off with Makuta, who is just kind of like, I'm just a guy. I'm just trying to keep my brother asleep. I think some lines vaguely implying that like he's doing this for the greater good of the planet.
Yeah, would be interesting.
Which is an interesting idea. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into like, oh, you don't understand. My Mata Nui is actually way worse than me. Or if we do this, it'll be like the Titans walking on the planet again. We don't want that. But instead, like, we must face off. We must die here. And I'm sorry to pivot back to this, Payton. We haven't seen in this entire movie really what is the danger of Makuta. I guess at one point the Rakshi storm the Fire Tribe village and somehow knock it into the lava.
They destroy it. Which to me, I'm like, y'all are the ones who built your village in the lava flow
on top of lava. I didn't see them attacking like the structural pillars. It seemed like it just happened. I just was craving at some point before we face off with the bad guy, maybe in Act 1, show us what Makuta represents to the island to connect to Moana. Right, like we understand
Bionicle Mask of Light walked so Moana could run.
We understand in Moana, Disney really owes Lego some money. We understand that like Moana's island is besieged by like a dark pestilence, right? There's an evil influence that is affecting her way of life. For most of this movie, they're just talking about stopping Makuta, but we haven't seen Makuta do anything. He's just hanging out down there. And he wasn't making these Rakshi guys until they found the light. So I think everything was fine. Makuta's like, hey, okay, fine, you want to kill me? How about we face off a good old game of Coley? Or let's play soccer tennis.
Yes.
And
wouldn't you know it, both of our staves look suspiciously lacrosse-like.
Yeah. Well, I guess he picked up his like when the Toe of Light like accepted now being the Toe, he like grabbed his like hockey stick, and I guess that shapeshifted into a weapon version of it. But yeah, they just kind of like fling pong balls at each other, destroying the cave.
It's very much like Ocarina of Time, like hit the light ball back at Ganon.
Shadow Ganon is flected it back at you. Yeah. There's no goal other than I guess you hit each other with it, and then if you don't catch it, you get. It hurts real bad.
Do you think this would have been better with the Challenger score?
Yeah, I think also a threesome plot would have made things more interesting too.
I mean, there were hints. There were hints.
We already had, there's already something going on with the Toa of fire and water, and then like the Toa of earth was just kind of like hanging around. I think you just make them a throuple.
Galley is the one, not to, I mean, they're all looking snatched. They are all like skinny legends, like big hips that they're always swaying. Like, I hope it's just gross.
They can. I hope it is like they interface and their like Lego parts just snap into each other, and you don't know what part is which person. Right? It is like they become a Cronenberg type entity.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to, I just now realized I recognize the voice actress Galley, the Toe of Water. I had wondered this whole time if there was any connections to Mainframe, which was this computer CG studio that did Beast Wars and Reboot, and had a lot of similar voice cast. Shout out to Kathleen Barr, who is Galley, Toe of Water, also the voice of Dot Matrix from Reboot. That might just be interesting only to me, but I felt like sharing it.
I bet if I watched a clip of Reboot, that would all come back to me.
Oh, Payton, I got to get you on the Reboot train, dude. That series.
I watched as a kid, but yeah, it's been a while.
Love Reboot. So the sports game to the death, murder ball goes on and on until all the Toa have shown up.
Mm-hmm. And they T-pose to assert dominance.
They fight the remaining Rakshi, if there's any left. But then also, I believe at that point, the Toe of Light, this kind of gets messy here at the end. Peyton, how do you remember what happens? They fall into a pool?
They fall. I've learned from this lore video, again, thank you to Mr. 13-Hour Lore Dump. So I've learned the silver stuff is a material called protodermis, which is basically just like the building blocks of life. It's
sure.
Yeah, it's silver goop that, depending on what you do with it, can do different things. So speaking of hot steamy Toa sex, where you don't know whose part is what, Makuta and Takanuva fall into the pool of protodermis and emerge as this sort of like half and half behemoth.
Yeah. It seems a new entity.
Takanuva, a new entity, and Takanuva seems to be in the driver's seat. But
yeah, it definitely seemed more benevolent. And they're like, oh, now that we are combined, light and shadow, we'll open this big stone gate that was been seen in the background.
Yeah, that allegedly has sealed away Mata Nui, the actual person, not the island.
Yeah.
Not the island that they're on right now.
No, but the entity of Mata Nui, but also then you would think that, like, does that not mean that the Toa of Light is the same? You know what I mean? Like, is Takanuva? God, I hate these names. Peyton, I hate.
Why? Is there something?
This entire vibe of this whole Bionicle thing is a bad tribal tattoo. Like, it's just like, we like the aesthetic and we don't care about any of the cultural connections to it, and it's just like, that surface level. Anyway, Takanuva and Makuta, if Takanuva is like Jesus to Mata Nui's God, even though now we're saying this is like a more of a Polynesian Maori religion. I don't know where this works, where like we together, the devil and Jesus, have fused.
We're gonna go
to
allow
God.
You to go into
to allow you to go into Gaia, but in there isn't Gaia. It is just a little like special circle of magic that allows them to revive Jala. They put Jala's mask, and the gate collapses, and Jala's reborn as a little guy.
Oh yeah. I think the gate collapsed first. Right? Or is that after?
Oh, right, yeah, because Takanuva like sacrifices.
Yeah,
Takanuva
big behemoth man
sacrifices themselves to open the gate so that Jala could be resurrected. Yes. But then they go into another part of the cave where there's like the Bionicle symbol of sort of like the yin and yang of like, here's some squiggly lines circling each other.
Unity, duty, and destiny, please.
Yeah, and then Jala is able to resurrect. Like, Toa, the light just kind of pops up. Like, hello, I'm back.
And he's back, baby. And I think from there, they just kind of like walk into the light to go meet God.
Is that how it ended? I feel like it's just...
I watched this like a week ago.
Pull up the movie again to be like, wait, what happened in the end?
I watched this a week ago, and I'm pretty sure they like walk into the light to meet God. And then there's a voiceover that's just like, shit's crazy, man. Anything can happen. I
watched it this morning and I can't remember. All right, I'll pull it back up. Yeah, all the Bionicle Toa have T-pose. They literally T-pose. Yes. The Toe of Light comes out of nowhere and he's just like, hey, I'm alive. Whatever. I guess I'm not dead today. I could have died, but I didn't. There's a lot of like kind of just bland placeholder lines of like, weren't you leaving? Yeah, yes, but I'm not now. Like, great. I'm glad this is good dialogue. Yeah, they transport to the top of Mountain Cliff, look out at an endless abyss.
Yes.
Talk about their duty that they've embraced. And then a light beam out of nowhere, its source unclear, shoots off into the oblivion of another island?
Yes.
Or it's their original island?
So, yes to both.
Okay.
So, I believe that is tossing up the like next season of the toys / the next movie, which ends up being a prequel where they go to an island called Mata Nui, which is like a city. And all of the elders, like Vakama, who I cannot stand, I hate that guy. It's on site.
Who's that?
the red elder, the one who tells them all about the prophecies, but never anything that would be helpful.
Yeah.
He and all the other elders used to be Toa themselves, and they were on this other island. And so I think there is like it mostly goes to a prequel where it tells about their time as Toa. And I believe that's what the second and third movie's about. They spend a lot of time in the prequel era. And then from there, I believe they ultimately leave Mata Nui to go there. But I could be wrong, because again, that's where it gets fuzzy.
That sounds right from what I'm seeing. I mean, also you're kind of like painting yourself into a corner where is the Toe of Light not like now? This is the Power Ranger problem, right? Yeah. When like the Green Ranger showed up and then he became the White Ranger, it wasn't ever clear to me as a kid. I think in my mind, I'm like, well, the White Ranger is just stronger. He has his own Zord as strong and as big as all of the other Power Rangers Zords combined.
Yeah.
Therefore, he is an upper echelon, right?
Yeah.
It feels like Toe of Light should be like, I guess you're our boss now. Like,
right, but he's new. So I'm wondering, like, does he take that role? Does he like hang in the background and like become friends with like the Earth and the Stone guy? Like, it's...
You know what? I do want to watch more of this world. I am on board.
Yeah, you know, I might have to join you because I watched this on the only streaming service it's available on is Hoopla, which you can get with your local library, and I think the other one.
I hope Hoopla stays around in 2025. Yeah. I'm very worried about Hoopla.
Oh God, yeah.
If you don't have a listen, anyone listening to Goosebuds, if you have not made a library, set up a library card at this point. Being a listener of this show, what are you doing?
Get a library card.
Support your local library.
I love.
But if you
libraries.
really can't, there's nothing illegal about typing Bionicle Mask of Light in YouTube.
It feels illegal,
but it's not. You can definitely find a copy online. You'll love it. I found this such an interesting excursion, Payton, because having a lore like this is interesting, and I think I was kind of excited to like be told the story, but the whole time I was thinking about like I was really into the earlier Lego sets than Bionicle, right? And they would do themed, right? They're like, oh, this is a underwater sea lab, or here's knights, or
like Yetis and ice, and
Yetis and ice, and like there was always an implied story, right? There's like a little Lego minifig character that you could tell is like, oh, that's clearly the bad guy. He's got an eye patch and a hook.
Yeah,
but they weren't. I was just making up my own story. And I don't know how much I needed the Bionicle lore for me to not just take these action figure toys and tell my own cool adventures with them, right? Like,
And this is where we differ. This is where we diverge. Because something I meant to tell you that I forgot to when we were just talking about background is that when I was young, when I need to, gosh, what year would that have been? I want to say like 2004, 2005. I remember they were running a special promotion where there was a Bionicle trivia challenge at Toys R Us.
Okay.
And you could sign up and go compete. And you bet your ass I did. And I was one. I went to the Toys R Us in Carbondale, Illinois, and was one of 2 competitors who did this Bionicle trivia challenge.
Wait, hold on. You mean you were already in the finals by just being one of 2?
It was a Saturday morning, and I was one of 2 little boys who showed up and said, you know what, we're gonna answer trivia questions about Bionicle lore. And this poor Toys R Us employee had to ask us. and it was this.
Oh my god! You know how relieved though that Toys R Us employee
totally.
is that when you showed up and you were the second employee, you're like, oh my god, am I going to ask your trivia questions to this one kid?
And it was a sort of like oversized board game where like you stood on the spaces, and you'd like roll a big die.
Wow!
And you'd walk around it because it was something they sent to like Toys R Us stores nationwide. And you would answer questions, and then if you got it right, you'd like get to keep going, and if you got it wrong, you'd have to like roll again and all that stuff. You bet your ass I won.
Kick that little kid's butt.
Yeah,
What was up for grabs? Like, what did you win?
So there was not a like prize, but the first, I remember because I was reading about it earlier today. The first 75 people who would like compete got a take-home version of the trivia game. So we both. Neither of us went home empty-handed, but we got like a little board game version of it. And I remember
of Lego Bionicle trivia.
Yes. And you want to know how many times I played that with anybody else in my family who was willing to? 0. Because
well, also, like, you're gonna win every single time.
No one knew anything. Nobody was like, like I'm not gonna get like my older sister to be like, yeah, tell me about Kopaka, Toa of Ice.
Was it multiple choice, or did you have to just know these names and these answers?
I want to say it was multiple choice.
That seems at least give you a 25% chance of getting something. Okay, yeah.
But yeah,
that's amazing.
I often wonder what happened to that other kid.
I know. Also, like, did you get anything that he didn't, or did you all just get you both?
I don't think so. I don't think there was anything that was like, oh, you just like don't get anything,
or like you got a Bionicle and he didn't.
Yeah, no, not even that much. I think maybe like my dad bought me one, like as like, oh, you won, like this is fun, but like no, it wasn't like one of you gets this set and the other one has to cry about it.
That you're reminding me. I mean, not to pivot. Like I was very Toys R Us for a while was just kind of like Saturday morning daycare.
Oh yeah. How many Pokemon distribution events did they do?
Dude, I would go regularly. This is like kind of the first couple years of the Pokemon trading card game, where they on Saturdays had like a Pokemon League where they just set up a bunch of like card tables and kids could play, and then some poor Toys R Us employee was designated to like run it. Mm-hmm. Probably not, trained on how to essentially run a sporting event / daycare. But you had to like bring your little like your trainer book to him and be like, oh, I beat so-and-so at a match, so I get 10 more points. And they'd like put a little like check off box. And then if you got 100 of them or something, maybe you got a booster. There was some, but it was really, if we get all these kids to come in for an extended period of time, they and their parents are going to buy a bunch of cards.
Right.
Like, we will just, and the age discrepancy was crazy. Like, I think I'm still bitter, Payton. I, at some point, had a really good card trade, and I was not ripping this kid off, but I was 3 years older than him, so he was 8 and I was 11, and I think I traded him for his Charizard. I gave him something good. I gave him a good card, but he wanted to trade his Charizard. And then after, like, we were done. The transaction is done. Charizard's in my binder. His mom comes to pick him up and finds me, and she's like, you need to trade him back right now. That was a bad trade. And I was like, that's what he wanted to do. I didn't coerce him into it. It was like and I guess I could have just told her like F off, but I was a polite little boy and I did it. But like it was a wild west of kids hanging out in a retail store with little supervision.
The one summer I worked at a kids summer camp, they were allowed to bring Pokemon cards. They were not allowed to trade because it was like,
smart.
Yeah, because it's like it does not matter if you've got TCG Player up on your phone. Like somebody's gonna be mad.
This is before, at least in my era, it was before TCG Player even existed,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my god. What is it like summer camp and trading? Once I went to an overnight summer camp, I was not told this was a thing they did, but every kid in my cabin traded CDs.
Oh.
Like they'd bring their big, like, remember CDs? You'd have those giant wallets with sleeves.
Oh yeah.
We'd all bring them. I brought mine to listen to on my my disc player, but like they would all like, I'll trade you Slim Shady for Nickelback, and I was like, what are you talking about? These are not tradable. These are art.
Right. You're like, I paid for this.
Yeah.
This is my All American Rejects Move Along album.
I need to know the secret messages of Bionicle.
Yeah, are we gonna free the man or not?
It's a good call. Before we fully wrap up Bionicle, I wanted to share a few things of trivia I had looked up, Payton, that
please.
might interest you and the listener. In the movie, I thought this was the cutest little Easter egg. Before they play their sport, the competitors salute each other and say, play well. Lego takes its name from the Danish phrase, leg godt, which means play well.
I thought that was cute. I caught that. That was fun.
Kind of a little Lego. Speaking of kind of prized Bionicle stuff, Cartoon Network held a contest prior to the movie's release to win the Lego piece of the titular Mask of Light cast in platinum. I kind of remember this.
I think contest. I remember this too.
The platinum mask called the Avoki. God, the names in this are awful, Payton.
Just lean
was
in.
The only one ever made, cast in platinum. It was resold in 2014 for $15,000. At the time, the most expensive single Lego piece ever sold. The masked owner, Andre Hurley, was married in October 2020, who wore the mask on his wedding suit. I assume that means he had it as like a pin, not like I am walking to the altar with this on my face.
Well, it would be too small.
Yeah. You can't just assume you are the Mask of Light. You got to wait for it to call to you.
Yeah, that's true. He knows the prophecy.
Yeah, the record was later upended in 2024 when a 14-karat gold How mask, the type of mask worn by Jala in this film, and also the original mask of Tahu, which I felt like was the most iconic mask, was sold at an auction for $18,000. There are 30 copies of this mask in the world. So there's clearly a Bionicle like fandom that loves this stuff.
Oh, totally. I have been the fandom is still definitely around. I think it is still mostly nostalgia, but like there's like a guy I follow on Instagram who will do rebuilds of like old sets, but using different pieces to make them more detailed and like bigger and stuff. And they're really cool. But yeah, I think like every few years, somebody you see a post flying around that's like, when are they going to bring back Bionicle? They did in 2015, and it didn't work. Yeah, because they killed it. I want to say around like 2010.
Yeah,
and then and they replaced it with this line called Hero Factory that was never as popular. And then
I watched some videos on that. It seemed to be the same principles though. Like, what if these plastic action figures with swappable parts were generic superheroes?
Right. Very much that.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, they relaunched it, and I bought one of them just as like a little nostalgic thing. He's on my shelf behind me. But yeah, apparently they just didn't sell well and didn't really justify Lego coming back with it, which, yeah, like part of me is like, now that I have actual money, because back then I think I was in undergrad. So I was like, didn't really, / couldn't justify looking around new Bionicles.
But they come in those little plastic tubes and everything, Payton.
Not
you
anymore.
Put them right there in your backpack.
Not anymore. The reboot ones came in a cardboard box, which was very disappointing. But he's kind of cool. He's got like a big boomerang.
All right, well, that's all right.
Yeah, it's always like, this would be a cool thing to like get back into. There's no getting back into it. There's like, if you see any on eBay, they are in the hundreds. At my parents' house, I still have a bunch of them. They're in a tub, and my
You might want to flip those for on the market, dude. You might have some money there.
My 7-year-old nephew loves them, and so he'll play with it, and I'm like, he's enjoying it, and I'll wait till he gets bored and then take them back. But like for now, like there's no reason not to let him play with it. It's a toy.
You're a good man for doing that. Also, I'm curious. I mean, I think Legos, besides the brick ones, are just known for, if you have a box of Lego bricks, those will last forever.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious on the quality of the Bionicles. I have a pretty scarred memory of, I bought pretty much every action figure of the Transformers Beast Wars set, have them all still back in Indiana. Wasn't really planning on reselling them, but wanted to, just check them out again and be like, oh yeah, I guess I could, sell these all for like $50 online. I picked a couple of them up out of this like Tupperware container I had them in. They like crumbled to dust. Like the plastic that they had been made out of clearly just oxidized and were not meant to last for more than a decade. Horrifying. I don't know how tough these Bionicles are.
They have held up surprisingly well. Like usually when I get that, whenever I visit, they want me to put them back together because I remember how they all go.
That's so, and to be cool, Uncle Payton just like could connect the Toa.
But yeah, they snap back in just like they always have, and like the gears still work and the masks still stay in, like they don't fall out. Like, yeah, Granted, it's plastic that's going to be around long after we're all dead. But...
It's in our bodies at this point too. Isn't that kind of cute?
Yeah,
There's a Bionicle in all of us.
Yeah, like we complain about microplastics in our blood, but what if they're Bionicle?
What a perfect way to bring this up, Payton. The other part of trivia I wanted to share was reading there's a 2013 book, Brick by Brick, How Lego Rewrote the Rules of Innovation and Conquered the Global Toy Industry, detailing how one of the Bionicle co-creators and concept artist Christian Faber revealed the secret inspiration for Bionicle. I don't know if you know this.
It wasn't Polynesian culture?
No, I think that came in secondary. Yeah, right. He took a little trip down to the Four Seasons, and he was like, "This Mai Tai is really good. What's this from?" I don't even know if Mai Tai is Polynesian drink. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But during his before he started working on Bionicle, he had a personal experience with a brain tumor, and during his treatment, he imagined that special medicine warriors, aka the Toa, would arrive in capsules to help cure a sick giant, Mata Nui, and defeat the infection, the Makuta.
Whoa.
The Matoran villagers would be analogous to white blood cells, and even the name Bionicle, portmanteau of biological and chronicle, came from this idea. And the true nature of Mata Nui and the character's relation to him were only revealed to fans in 2008. It was also made clear that most of the backstory related in this movie and the one we watched, for example, Makuta being Mata Nui's brother, or Mata Nui bringing the Matoran to the island, was meant to be taken metaphorically. But this is essentially like Osmosis Jones /
I had no idea.
I mean, it's not really in there.
Fake fan, I guess.
Yeah. It does add a layer of literature to this.
I mean, because I think I'd heard about that book and I'd been meaning to read it. So now I have more of a reason than ever.
Yeah, it's cool that came from a real place beyond just I have this idea for a toy and let's just take some cultural appropriation and slap it on here and make it seem exotic and cool. That's not really a funny story, but an interesting story.
No, that's really cool.
I think that's Lego The Mask of Light. Payton, do you have any other thoughts on this?
What else is there to
share?
What else is there to say? This movie did have a tie-in video game just called Bionicle, which I did have, and I did play on the GameCube relentlessly.
Could you swap out as the different Toa?
Yes, each level was a different Toa. Actually, I think it was sort of like between... It starts out and they're in their like old first gen forms, and then halfway through you get their new ones.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was great. There are so many pieces of like Bionicle relevant media. There are video games.
Yep.
There are Flash games, which are canon.
Oh, really?
There are Scholastic books.
Yeah, kind of like should we have read one of the books instead of the movie for this?
That was part of my thought. I was like, but. No, I think this is probably about as much Bionicle as any sane person is willing to take.
Yeah. I mean, we'll let the listeners, you let us know. I gotta imagine there's a few folks listening to this who also grew up with Bionicle. I'll be curious to see how folks respond to us. No matter what, they're gonna love having you on, Payton, to talk about this. But if there's hungry for more Bionicle, don't eat a Bionicle. Don't ever put plastic in your mouth. But if you're hungry,
it's already in your body. Do it.
Yeah, if you're already metaphorically hungry for more Bionicle, let us know.
Actually, damage is done.
Yeah. The best way to do that, actually, too, if you want to support the show Goosebuds and encourage me to cover more Bionicle and have Payton back on, is to go to patreon.com/goosebuds. Our show is funded and powered by you on the Patreon supporters. Pledging to support the show not only helps guide us on what we're going to cover next, but you get access to our cool Discord with a really amazing community. You also get access to Camp Goosebuds, which is a recurring bonus episode. We have dozens upon dozens of past episodes, all for you on the Patreon level of Camp Goosebuds. I'm still, to be honest, kind of figuring out what Camp Goosebuds is going to be going forward, but there will still always be at least one monthly bonus episode every month. Payton, I am so happy to have you on for, I think it's officially, the new era of Goosebuds. Could not have asked for a better guest to usher us back in. You were such a pleasure once again. I'd love to have you back, whether it's for Bionicle, a Goosebumps or a Fear Street, or something else, maybe something connected to Indiana media, or maybe we just talk about X-Men at some point. We just have an X-Men.
That'd be great. Yeah.
What should people do to check out? I know where all you are, but you tell me as if I don't know where people should go to check your.
Absolutely. If you want more of my ramblings personally, best place to do that is, and really the only one I'm on anymore, is Instagram. You can follow me at maybe not Payton, Payton spelled with an A. And then if you want to see my actual work, I work where Chad used to, over at WTIU PBS in Bloomington, Indiana, where I make a show called Flyover Culture for our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Flyover Culture. It is all about pop culture in the Midwest. We are about to wrap up our 4th season. There's a couple more episodes left.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you. I don't know when this will get posted, but the April episode is an idea by my student part-timer, Danny, who's like, why don't we do one on why do some people say soda, some people say pop, some people say Coke? And it has evolved into a deep dive into capitalism
good
and
topic.
How it ruins everything. And it's got an interview with this guy named Dr. Bart Elmore, who's just absolutely brilliant and wrote an entire book on like Coca-Cola.
That's amazing.
Capitalism. So that's coming soon. Did an episode on Chapel Roan. Did an episode on Daniel Warren Johnson.
You had a Hundreds of Beavers episode. You've been picking out like you've been making videos for specifically my interests. It's been crazy. Yeah.
Good. Great. But yeah, if you want to check that out, that is youtube.com/Flyoverculture.
That's fantastic. Payton, by the way, which are you? Soda, pop, Coke?
Soda. It's always been soda. From the St. Louis area. And the first time I heard pop, I was just like, what is wrong with you?
I was a weirdo that did Coke. I say the word Coke. I've never done cocaine. And then weirdly, on top of enough of this, I have enough family in the South where I have a cousin whose name is Coke.
What?
Yeah. His name's Coke, and he's a dentist, which I think is also kind of funny.
C-O-K-E.
C-O-K-E. Yeah. He's like 60 or 70 at this point, but yeah, his name is Coke.
I'm shocked he has not been sued yet.
You got to change your name, Coca-Cola Corporation.
Because they are protective about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe if he doesn't put the cola in, maybe that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that video. Yeah, please check out Flyover Culture. Check out patreon.com/goosebuds. Payton, I'd love to have you back again soon. Thank you for joining
Anytime.
me.
This is so much fun.
All right, we'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
This episode of Goosebuds is brought to you by our wonderful Patreon supporters. They exist in the Book of Names.
The Book of Names.
Book of Names.
Starting off with Low Belly Hate Me.
Hollis Hornbeak.
Nathan Dolezal.
Hey, Josh Robb.
Mickey C.
Afsheen.
Stealth a Beautifully Fleshed Skeleton Bates.
Robert Moon.
Jason Crooker.
DM me. I'll tell you about the Rite Aid fraud. I haven't heard anything about it yet. I haven't heard any Rite Aid fraud.
I never DM first about fraud. I always wait till it comes to me.
Did you DM them? That's how you find out. You
Oh,
gotta get
crap.
the
I
DMs.
forgot that detail. That was very...
You know what? I'm just going to DM the Juggalobalist instead.
I'll send a DM to Aiden, who is doing shots of Skittles Littles.
I'm going to send a pigeon to Gregory D. Warren.
Nobody DMs Leviathan.
I'm scared to slide into the DMs of Jar Jar Slinks.
Please respond, chosen one.
The John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation regret to inform you that DMs are closed.
Yanni Markafina breaks the bit.
Thanks, Yanni. Carl.
Anthony Mulberry.
Brooke X.
Christian Van Skeever.
Jeremy Lowe.
Zach Connor.
Andrew Jadsack gives the Luke Skywalker salute when above the Sarlacc pit to Kevin and Paul. Was there a salute? I thought it was just a head nod.
Yeah, that's the salute to kill.
Luke was trying to say, I want to die. Luke, please let me die.
You know what's funny is I think that all salutes are salutes to kill, aren't they? Kind of in a way.
Damn.
Was the salute like before or after he did a backflip over the side?
I think the salute is to
does...
fire or for R2 to fire the
he's like
lightsaber.
He's like shoot thump gun my killing device to me now, robot, and he does the thing and then he backflips and catches it.
Sarlacc pit, kind of like a living quicksand if you think about it.
Yeah.
Quicksand with mouth.
Yeah. And now Kevin says Carson.
Tevin Ticklebeam whispers, "Rich people are a scam," and releases the arrow. Hell yeah, Tevin.
Luke. Period.
Matt McClellan.
Juan Jalapeno.
Keith Halcrow.
Clay McCarty. Parentheses. Yowie Gagarin. A.K.A. Yowie Gagarin.
Matthew Sutton.
Kelsey Kidderman.
Tobias Clark.
Russell Kasberg.
Xavier Jimenez Castillo.
Raina Kemp.
We figured that out. I think we figured that one out.
We did. And it does go like my favorite Star Ocean 2 protagonist. No offense, Claude, but Raina's just better.
MC Hamster.
Limp Duck.
Jonas Blotterman.
Chris, does it smell like ghost dick in here? Nelson.
Whoa. Kieran McNamara.
Wham.
Coleman Laguza.
Diet Soda.
Jonas Enevoldsen.
Woof, 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 woof.
A pair of Scots.
Iro Forte.
Meta for the metaphor. New music coming soon.
Zambambino.
Ma, the meatloaf.
That one's not very hungry for meatloaf. That Kevin.
I had a big dinner. I'm sorry, Ma, the meatloaf. It's not.
Burger's functioning replacement for Kevin's heart.
Some of Chad's bird friends just bought a copy of Space Kinks.
Thank you.
Individual copies.
Nicholas Maloney.
Lucretia McEvil.
Mutant astronaut.
Need more kimchi.
Logan Derby.
Cameron Hansen.
Callum Monster Misfire West.
Generally depressing.
Philip Reynolds.
Nate Bit G.
Ryan R. Davis.
Scott Wable.
Resident Lorcana guy pledges their half Hexwell crown to Kevin and their lucky dime to Paul. Goodbye, boys. Love y'all. Love you too.
Oh, lucky dime for the road.
That's how Scrooge McDuck made his monies.
Yeah, it's actually a drug lingo too. You got that Lorcana Lucky Dime? Yeah, we got one of those. Come around the corner. F-Dog.
Gluten-free Rocky Mountain Oysters.
Stinklinch.
Megan McCormick Mason.
Ninja Breadmen.
Sprinkle Buns.
Aaron Lord.
Dr. Chocula.
My Cart.
SSJ Trogdor.
Cassandra Harris.
Max Boltzmann.
Farah.
Mike Spaghetti Jones.
Quest Goblin Grader.
Kyle O'Neill.
Tan Your Hide is fighting off the aliens, waiting for more pretend friends. And Goosebuds RPG.
It can still happen. It can still happen.
Keep fighting. Keep the fight.
It's gonna.
Keep the
it'll
fight
happen.
alive.
John W.
Kiwi O'Flurv.
Hey, it's me, Chevy LaGrange.
The Chevy's aligned. Max is a box that shoots death.
Damn, just the concept of death. Or maybe it shoots Grim Reapers.
Either way, pretty cool.
Both dope. Mr. Bumpy versus the Closet Monster versus Destructo versus the Grim Reaper that flies out of the box that shoots it.
Whoa, Blarbin.
Logan Kilgus.
We're editorializing a lot of names. I hope everyone's okay with that. Odin's _ eye hole _ box that shoots _ death _ representative.
It shoots death into your eye. That's why you have an eye hole. Hey, Criterion Collection's edition of Problem Child 2 on DVD.
Taraku, the thing that goes doink in the anime. Doink. That one's already editorialized.
No, that's
you can't, like,
from the
can't
beginning.
Kill the lily
Yeah,
on
from the
the
beginning,
doink.
it has been.
Yeah.
That's a dope name. Jafar is hunting monsters and slaying spires.
Wade Norcross.
Dacious.
The Strays.
Hell yeah.
Bob Cabbage.
Ben Flolios Sayer.
Jolly Old Jules.
Geege.
The Shreknonomicon.
Soap.
Spencer Leith Johnston.
Smelodies.
Caleb doesn't have much to say this month.
That's okay. It's okay.
Tall glass of dumb bitch juice is just a disappointment.
I take that as meaning you're not being dumb bitch this month, and therefore you're disappointed. Which also, congratulations.
Carly Beth's parents, 808. Carly Beth found a stone Aztec mask. This one doesn't seem haunted, though.
Treehouse of Jorge 6, The Curse of Treehouse Myers.
Better a Yeti with a flaw than a Bigfoot without.
Wyvern.
Al and MC.
Angus Keith.
Felix.
Tudor Watson.
Daniel Lavelle.
Wolf CIA.
Big old dumb bird engaged to ladybird fiance.
Yeah.
Congrats again.
Congrats again.
Eric Wink.
Mitcho.
Nathan Galindo.
Ventus 13.
Ari.
J. Fenn Crane.
Notoriously a cursed thing.
Andrew.
Ben L. Cursed as a Halloween gingerbread. Help.
I think I will help myself. I'm gonna chomp. Oh, it's funny enough. Gingerbread, Halloween gingerbread. I was just thinking about it, is followed by Snackwell's Cookie Monster. Never mind. Cookie Monster did all the chomping.
Whoa. Perfect crime.
Haptic.
Kevin Sorbo's Gourmet Tomatoes. I thought it had to rhyme. It feels like it should be a tomato sorbo.
It did feel like I feel like it should.
It does have
yeah.
like a limerick vibe to it or something. Yeah. Smithios.
Avery.
Snack Reiner.
Cold _ mayhem.
Zack Snyder.
Funny how close Snack Reiner is to Zack Snyder, you know? That makes you think.
Yeah. Snack Reiner is definitely a character that would be in a Zack Snyder short.
And welcome, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Just
Hi,
Nick. Hi,
Nick.
Nick. Thank you for all your love and support. Thank you all for supporting the show. And we love you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Love you guys. Bye.